Today, it's all about the Nintendo 64. I think it's a stretch to say 10 great games, but we're going to try getting you into 10 good games on the N64 for under $10. What are we drinking
today? We're drinking the Cherry Bohemian by Exile. This is a sour ale brewed with cherries.
All right, you know the drill. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you never miss one of our bi-weekly uploads. And sit back, relax, pour yourself an adult beverage if you care to, and let's talk about the N64 and try getting you into 10 good games for under $10.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters, and you're watching Gaming Off the Grid.
All right, here we go. It is time for the N64, and if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, we've kind of been known to shit on the console a little bit.
Even though it was my first console I ever owned, and when I was a kid, I loved it.
It's one of those, like, there's a lot of nostalgia for the N64, but it's one of those consoles, when you revisit it, it maybe doesn't always live up to what you thought it was. But anyway, kind of Nintendo's first dive into the 3D realm, and we've kind of done this series where we're trying to get you, the viewer, into some cheap games, because everybody thinks retro game collecting is like, oh, it's impossible these days. In 2021, you can never collect for retro consoles. It's just so damn expensive. Wrong. Today we're going to get you into 10 good games. I think I said in the intro. Maybe not great games.
Some of them are great, I will say.
But there's not, a ton of games that I would say are great on the N64. True. But these games are all under $10, and they're good games and a lot of fun. So let's just start off in the realm of Star Wars.
Ooh, lightsabers. Yes, I love Star Wars. So let's start off with a fantastic game on the N64. Yeah, I'd say fantastic.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, this game is so much fun, and that's Star Wars Rogue Squadron. This game comes in at $9.39. So, in case you guys are wondering, we are using PriceCharting.com for these prices, and it's just the cart only.
And, there has been some feedback. Well, sometimes that could include repro pricing. Guys, we don't know a better way to source what the cost of these things are. So, we're going with Price Charting. That's a source. Give or take, it's somewhere around that $9.50 mark.
But Rogue Squadron is a fantastic Star Wars plane shooter game on the 64.
Yeah, and the first time I played that game, I was like, holy shit, I've always been waiting for this Star Wars game. And when I go back and play it, it's still, like, up there with as good as I remember it, which is hard to say for the console. But the N64 is a great Star Wars game console, so we're going to keep the train rolling.
Yes, we are.
With one of your favorite N64 games ever.
I had this game.
You gush over this game.
I had this game when I was a kid, and that's Shadows of the Empire. So you play as a mercenary named Dash Rendar. The mechanics are a little weird because it's an N64 game, and it's kind of a shooter, and it's platforming, but I remember, like, taking down, like, the ATTs or whatever, like, the two walker giant robots are. Dude, this game is so much fun. I played so much of it when I was a kid.
This is a game I would say that when you revisit it, it definitely has a little different feel than maybe you remember it. Whereas I think Rogue Squadron's still epic today, but Shadows of the Empire for the time, man, it was a must-own N64 game.
And it's less than $10. It comes in at $9.69. Yeah. It could just be my nostalgia speaking, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's a good game. And then Episode 1 Racer, which is it's such
Pod
a great
Racer.
game. Yeah, and you can also get this game. I think probably the best version's on the Dreamcast, but it's such a fun game, and who doesn't like the racing stuff in Star Wars?
Yeah, so this game comes in at $9, and this is another game I had as a kid. And it's just a fantastic racer, and you can do up to 4 players, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let's get off the Star Wars train, and let's go kill some dinosaurs in Turok II. Now, you don't see Turok II on a lot of the best of N64 lists, but I've got to say, from a graphical standpoint, the leap, which I love Turok 1, but the leap in graphical power to Turok 2,
it's unbelievable.
That game still looks pretty damn good today.
Yeah, Turok 1, I was playing Turok 1 and I was like, this game is fantastic, and then we put on Turok 2 and I was like, what?
It's just gorgeous.
This is still the N64?
And I believe Turok 2 utilizes the functionality of the expansion pack, which I think is how they were able to push it, but man, you want to talk about a console pusher? I think Turok 2 is squeezing as much blood out of that turnip as possible.
And Turok 2 is such a fun game. And what's cool, if you guys remember Turok 1, you had an inventory of just 1 items of weapons and stuff. In Turok 2, you have 2 inventories of weapons, which is really cool.
And your melee, you've got these talons on your hand.
It's so cool. So Turok 2 comes in at $8.62, and I'm going to say right now that I think I like Turok 2 better than the first one.
Hot take, I love the first one so much, but it's probably my nostalgia speaking, but from a visual standpoint,
dude,
oh my god. And it's fun. That's weird to like gush over the visuals on an N64 game, but Turok 2, freaking gorgeous game. One of the first N64 games I ever played, I had a friend growing up, his name was Blake. It was 1080 snowboarding.
Yes.
And I love the music in the game. My mind was blown. I don't think it's like the best game, with all the SSX games and things like that. Yeah. But, God, dude, it's still a fun snowboarding game, and you can get into it for like $7.99. And some of the sound effects, the guy was just like, ugh. Ugh.
Yeah, dude.
Makes a sound. I'm like, what are you doing?
Why is he making that sound? It could just be the snowboarder that I picked. But it's so much fun, and it's up to 4 players. It's just a straightforward snowboarding game, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does, and it's a lot of fun. Again, it's tough because now that all these other great snowboarding games come out, it's like, I probably think of 1080 maybe, later on down the list, but it's really fun.
And it's cheap.
And it's kind of a staple. That's one of those N64 games that I feel like a lot of people owned.
Yeah, it's just a staple. Speaking of a staple, let's move on to some wrestling.
Yeah, WCW versus NWO Revenge. World Tour was an awesome game, but Revenge, the roster is just loaded, and it's kind of that second in line of 4 banging wrestling games on the N64 that go down in history as some of the best, like the best wrestling engine of all time.
Yeah.
That THQ line of wrestling games on the N64, AKI or Aki, I've heard it both ways, on the development of that. This game was so good. I put so many hours into this, and it's not even close to being as good for various reasons as WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. Yep. But just because of the roster, I mean, this game has Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil, Neidhart, I think, is in this game. Hey, there was a lot of, WWF guys who had went over to WCW at the time, and it's just loaded, and you can get into this game for like $6.50. So much fun, multiplayer action. The nostalgia runs wild, dude. As you're playing a match at Halloween Havoc, brother. I mean, it's so much fun. It's
so much fun, and I love how simple it is, and that kind of ties into the next game. That's super simple. But dude, this game is another one. You get a 6-pack, 12-pack, 20-pack, and get a buddy or a couple buddies, and play Ken Griffey Jr.'s Slugfest on the N64. This game comes in at $6.31. A little insider tip in case you guys don't know. If you play as the Mariners, and you play Ken Griffey comes up to bat, and you do left, right, left, home run every time, baby.
And every time Robert giggles like a schoolgirl. It's like, dude, good job, buddy.
Good job.
Every time he's like, oh, that's so awesome. It's like, no, it's not. But it gets his rocks off. But anyway, this game, I have a great memory of playing with my friend Jimmy growing up. We played the shit out of this game, and he played as the Mariners too, just like you, and he was an asshole, and he used the code all the time. Cheated. This game, though, has so many things in it. One, I love how it plays. It's simple. I love that the bases are on the C-pad.
Oh, dude, the game makes perfect sense. If you've never played it before and you dive in, it makes perfect sense.
Now, graphically, the players look so funny. Like, some of them walk up to the batter's box like they've got a hunchback. There's like,
and then they have pointy butts. They have weird shoes. Dude, so the player models look really weird, but besides that, the game looks great.
Yeah.
And some of the voice acting.
Like, there's some one-liners, kind of. I like the umps. If you get a close call at, like, any of the bases, basically, the second base where it happens a lot, he'll be like, he's in there! Kind of reminds me of Sega Zombie with his get in there.
Yeah, I'm like,
and then
he's in this game?
Anytime you're safe, you could throw the ball way late, and he's like, safe! And like, it's just a funny game. It's a lot of fun, and if you grew up in the 90s, the nostalgia for that era with Ken Griffey Jr. and Mark McGwire when he had his 70 home runs. I mean, it was just a really cool era of baseball, and it's still a serviceable baseball game today in 2021. Like, when we were getting screen cap for this episode, it's just like, let's just keep playing. And it also has real teams, which was, on Super Nintendo, there were, I think the first Griffey game maybe didn't have the real teams. And there's Home Run Derby in
which is so much fun.
Which any game that has Home Run Derby has got G's name written all over it.
Home Run Derby is such a simple but fun game mode.
You just freaking get hammed and play Home Run Derby. It's so much fun. Okay, I think we talked about in the Super Nintendo episode, Top Gear.
Yes, we did, which is a sweet racing game.
Top Gear Overdrive on the N64 got an awesome soundtrack. It's got amazing graphics. And it's got shortcuts.
I just want to bring up, it has amazing cars.
Because they're the type of things that Robert thinks is funny.
So they have the normal race cars. Yeah. And then, this is so funny. There's a hot dog and the tires are pickles. And then there's an N64 car, which is the N64 logo and tires.
Yeah, and that's
what I pick.
He picks. Yeah.
But why? Why do they have that? It's so funny.
This game's a lot of fun. The learning curve on this is kind of steep. It's got really touchy steering, so it's kind of that
it's advanced driving.
Yeah, well, it's wanting to be, I feel like, that hybrid racing game between arcade and like sim.
Yeah, because you get turbo and stuff.
But it is a really fun game if you're a fan of the Top Gear series. Top Gear Overdrive, and especially at the time, was pretty kick-ass. It's $8.02. We own it. We love it. It's an awesome game.
And it's up to 4 players, which is fantastic.
How many times can you not blow up in a race in Top Gear Overdrive?
Every time I play as the N64 car, I blow up so much.
There is your challenge. Let us know in the comments section below. And then a series that I really like that there's some really good racing games. F-Zero being a great futuristic kind of racer on the N64, but the price is a little high.
Yep.
But if you're into that type of thing, Wipeout 64 is actually a pretty kick-ass Wipeout game.
Dude, it's so much fun. This game comes in at $7.85, which is super cheap, under $10. And it's just another one of those simple, fun, get some friends together and race games.
This game actually is pretty good looking.
Yeah.
Does it want to go on a date with me? I don't know. But Wipeout 64, it's an awesome game, and the Wipeout series, I don't think people's mind go to Nintendo when it comes to the Wipeout series, because it was kind of more of a PlayStation thing. But Wipeout 64 is pretty sweet, and it's cheap.
A good N64 game under $10? Let me fill you in on Xtreme G. Xtreme G is a mixture of Mario Kart and F-Zero, and if you're a racing fan, it's a must-play on the N64. You get this motorcycle futuristic racing combat game, but you're at high speeds. So you have the futuristic look of F-Zero, the high speeds of F-Zero, but you have the combat edition of the Mario Kart franchise. But don't get me wrong, this is in a league of its own. You have loop-de-doop roller coaster style tracks. The fast-paced gameplay feels really good because you don't get hit with those crazy hairpin turns that a lot of games just destroy you with when you're driving on the road going 1,000 miles an hour and then they want you to make a 180 turn on a dime. Yeah, Xtreme G does a good job of negating that. The fog that has plagued the N64 is actually not too bad in this, so graphically it still looks pretty good. I love the power-ups. You have missiles that can go forward, can go backward to take out your enemies. You can put mines down, you can get shields. You start off every race with 3 boosts, and once they're gone, they're gone. There's different shortcuts throughout the tracks, but you don't necessarily need to get them in order to win the races. It got pretty good reviews when it came out, and commercially it was a success when it was one of the good selling games on the N64. One of the things I will say is even though there's a lot of combat involved, you're going so fast a lot of times that your enemies either fly by you or you fly by them, and it doesn't give you a chance to always hit them. But that doesn't make me stop and not slow down every once in a while just to annihilate my competition. So for me, Xtreme G does have a sequel, Xtreme G2, but Xtreme G1 is, I believe, the better game out of the two, and definitely at under $10, a must-have and a must-play for any N64 fan.
That's 10 dingers. I don't think they're dingers.
Some of them are dingers, but not all of them.
N64 isn't our favorite console to collect for. It's all about nostalgia. It's kind of like more hype than what it really delivers, but we try helping folks collect on the cheap. That's one of our missions as a channel, and this is a way to get a good start. If you had these 10 N64 games, people would come over and be like, dude, that's a pretty badass collection.
Yeah, and it'd be like, okay, let's get some 4 players together and drink some beer and play some games. Oh, you can't beat that. Speaking of beer, let's talk about this. The Cherry Bohemian by Exile. This is a sour ale brewed with cherries. This is part of their Bohemian series.
Is it safe to say Exile is the king, the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, for sours?
Yeah.
I think they're the best brewery, not just because it's a Des Moines area brewery and we love them because of that, but I really think they have the best
their Bohemian series
continuous release of sours of any brewery I've ever had. And one of the first ones they ever did was the Cherry Bohemian. So this is kind of a return because we've never covered this on the channel. So it's been at least 3 to 4 years since the Cherry Bohemian was out. Now, I've got a little bit memory of the first batch, which you don't.
Yeah, this is my first time ever having it.
This differs quite a bit from the first batch. So the first batch was not this dark blood red. The first batch had more of a cloudy, it had a little bit more of that beatnik to it. I can't really explain it other than that. Where this, not that it's bad, it's just a different batch. This Cherry Bohemian's different than the first one. There's no doubt about it. It's a little less... God, what's that sour, that fermenting yeasty taste that you get in a sour? This has got more of, to me, like a cherry cobbler.
Oh yeah,
type of taste or something.
This It's very unique because I'm used to the Bohemian series, and the Bohemian series usually has that distinct pucker,
Yeah.
distinct sour taste, and this is a different version of that because it's bready.
Yeah.
This is like a cherry bready, but like if you look at the art on the can, they're like at a picnic, so I'm like maybe cherry cobbler. It does taste a lot like cherry cobbler.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a slight sour ting to it.
There is.
And I think if you're not a fan of sours, you would enjoy this because it's not super
Yeah.
soury. I think this is really good.
No, I love this.
This is really good.
I in thinking back, I don't have them side by side. I do like that weird, gosh, what would you say, like a Berliner Weiss type
Ooh,
style of those sours that they do. This differs greatly from my memory of the original. It was almost like a pink. It was more of a pink, and it was more cloudy, where this is more blood red and way more transparent. But I do really like it. I'd say both batches are a 9 out of 10 or above. They're really good freaking sours. If you're ever in the Des Moines area, you got to check out Exile. They've got great brews, but their sours is where it's
and
at.
they serve food.
Yeah,
so.
they do. And some really good food. So
really good.
Anyways, awesome beer. I mean, mediocre console at best, but it's all about getting you those cheap games. Yeah. The N64 and its games is kind of rising in price, so it does make it a little tough to collect. So we're just trying to buff that out for you a little bit here on Gaming Off the Grid. And we always appreciate you tuning in and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time. I just said Gaming Off the Grid, but I'm going to say it again. Right here on Gaming Off the Grid. Hopeless plugs. And it's still a serviceable bait. And it's still a serviceable bait. And it's still a serviceable because you can still collect in 2021 on a budget. And that's just one of the things we like to help with.
Yeah.
For under $10. What are we drinking
They
today?
were drinking and I was not ready.
Okay.
It's just super fun baseball and play grippy and play